Priya, I'm looking at your animation. Thank you for sending it over. So I will start with this shot, which is a top-down of two dudes fighting against one another. I'm conscious that the delivery is quite near, so I will maybe just point out what I see as the biggest issues in there. In general, the shots work if you have no time to refine them any further. What I'm not really convinced about is the way the fists are being extended in the red guy there. It feels like there is no anticipation to the arm. You see that in one frame we just open up the arm and then it just extends. So it doesn't really feel like he's punching forward. It feels more like it's just extending the arm rather than punching forward. And that's also true for the left arm. It feels like it's doing like this, but it's not really punching. Maybe there's some specific move in boxing for which this works very well. Right now I'm not quite sure. I think what could work well is if you could wait to rotate the chest towards the arm and still have the arm here, and you just do an anticipation, and then as the arm extends you also rotate the chest, because right now it feels like the chest is fully rotated already here and then the arms ends up extending. So it's a bit strange for me to see the arm fully extended and the chest is already there. So I think if you track maybe this shoulder of mine, I know the webcam is small, you see that the fist and the chest work together. In here it feels like the chest is already there and then the arm extends. And similarly in here you see that first you are rotating the chest and after 2 frames you're extended, which makes it look as if the motion is a bit more like this one. While I would imagine that's the motion, right? With the chest helping the extension. The line of action is actually quite cool in here. It's just that the way the chest rotates doesn't seem to fit the motion. It just seems like the chest gets there and then the fist rotates. If you have any reference you're following that is working otherwise, well, I trust the reference. It's just I don't know much about boxing. At times I have the feeling that your character is falling to the floor. For instance, in here you have this foot which is off the floor. You see it's still off and it's still not on the floor in here, and the other foot is just moving. So that means that the character should fall down, and it's really strange that the character not only doesn't fall down but keeps moving in that direction. So I think in here you have to decide which kind of motion you have in there. If it's a little jump like boxers do very often, then it will be having a different motion. But in general, I think you want this foot to go down, give it a couple of frames for this foot to stay on the floor and then move it if you really want to do this move. So you see that the red guy is moving forward, then he freezes for 2 frames at the end of the shot. So I'm not quite sure. And similarly, I'm not quite sure why the blue guy moves very quickly. The fist moves very quickly here, and then on the next frame it doesn't move at all. It doesn't move forward anymore. So maybe this shot was supposed to be over at frame 81. Right now it feels like you're moving then to a halt, and it feels like you're doing that deliberately. So I don't know what goes on in there. So just make sure that works with your edit. Without knowing the edit, I can only say that it will work better if you cut 1 frame before the end, because you see you will cut in full swing and you will leave with the idea that the blue guy was throwing a big punch at the other guy. The way they move is pretty much like puppets, especially the blue guy, and I don't know if that's deliberate or if it's an accident. If it's deliberate, then it could work because they feel pretty stiff, so it could work in terms of style. In terms of posing, I think you would have a nicer line of action with the blue dude if the blue guy had the chest rotated this way, so to favor the fist going backward. And also this means that you could have the elbow there, you could protect yourself a lot better if you think of it, if the line of action were this way. And also you would have a much stronger punch this way, because you see that you would move also with the body, you would also help with the body there. So that's the thing that probably I would try to fix. For the steps of the characters, I would probably want to see a different camera, a witness camera, maybe from this angle, to see if there's something strange. I suspect that the feet of this character are a bit off sometimes, but I'm not sure. From this angle it's difficult to tell. So the way the red guy punches is unclear. It feels like it's just extended the arm because the chest is already in the position. The blue guy would be feeling a lot stronger if the chest were helping. Knowing that you have to deliver probably this week or so, these are the 2 things I would focus on. The rest, more or less, in my opinion, works. I would maybe have a bit more of a protected pose with the red guy. I would probably keep the fist a lot more and the elbows a lot more closer to the body if you can, just because it will look a lot more protected. But I don't know the story, so I don't know if that's in line with the story. And in general, I would try to have the foot a bit more with the tip out, rotated this way, just because it feels a bit like it's perfectly in line with the body going down this way, so that's a bit strange to look at. And use a witness camera to see if your characters are falling. For this other shot, again, I don't know if the fact that they look a bit stiff is deliberate if you're trying to emulate puppets. There's this pose which I don't buy into it as much with the arms up. And the reason why I don't buy into it is because you have a joint in here that clearly lets you rotate the shoulders in any direction you want, but you're rotating up the arms as if you were only allowed a single direction on the way up, as if you were an action figure that can only do this. So it's strange to see that your character does it when it can have relatively a high amount of freedom in there. So I think this would look a lot better if the elbows were a bit more out. Yeah, red against red, not a good idea probably. Even black, not a good idea. Green, probably a good idea. And also, if you could rotate them so that we don't see the flimsy connection with the chest, that would look a lot better. Because right now the problem is that the right arm in there, you see it looks like it's being chopped off. Here you see it's really, really far away. If you have to cheat and move everything a bit closer, do it for this pose. I mean, nobody's going to check that in the audience, hopefully. Just track the arcs of the arms on the way up as you do it. And the other thing is that it's a bit strange that your body is moving down before you even are on the contact. So I would expect frame 8 to have the body a bit higher up instead. So to be going up this way instead, so that after the contact you can go down. And it's strange to see a guy walk and the legs are always bent. I mean, if your legs are bent, then maybe your pose is that of a guy who's actually doing that professionally, you know, is ready to punch. But if your guy is walking this way, you would be better off if the leg was a bit straighter as you walked forward. So check the ups and downs of that walk because they look a bit bizarre. For the blue guy, again, here I'm limiting myself to the stuff that is more evident and that you can address maybe towards the deadline without losing too much time. I'm not going to go into every single detail. For the blue guy, the 2 feet being perfectly parallel to one another, they look very mechanic. They don't really go that well, I think, with animation. Even the way you roll here is pretty parallel. Again, I don't know what's the style of the animation. If this is the style you're going for, then keep it. Otherwise, if you keep it a bit more organic, it will probably look a bit better. The animation does its job in my opinion, but there's one part which doesn't really convince me, and is this one. So the guy is about to lift up, but this hand is off the floor, this foot is off the floor, and this fist is off the floor because it's moving. So right now your character can only fall down, and instead you see in the next frame it's completely off the floor apart from this dude. So essentially you're telling me to believe that using the tip of one shoe he can lift himself up like he's doing here. Actually can hold himself up until this shoe touches the floor, which is unreasonable. I mean, I cannot buy into it. I think a better course of action here would be to make sure that you have a contact with the right foot before you lift the 2 fists there, and then you lift, because otherwise it's going to be a bit strange that the guy can pull it off. I mean, I get it, they're strong, but this is superhuman. Now the other thing is, as you stand, this is really strange to look at. You are rotating the foot around the heel there, your legs are still bent, and then you're falling down in here. You see that you're falling to the back, but then you don't fall, which is really strange. If you're spinning, I would expect the root to be still forward so that you don't fall to the back. And then in here, definitely the leg should be straighter and the guy should be still a bit forward there so that he doesn't fall to the back, because here his center of gravity is way off and the guy is falling. You can maybe put this on a layer and just move the whole action of the root a bit more forward if you have no time. That's it, I think. These are the biggest things that I can think of in here. As I said, this feedback is just considering the fact that you are near the delivery. I hope it helps. Have fun.
Blood circulation, heart problem, hormone problem.